Good day everyone, I am Angelo Villaflor.
And I'm Roxanne Mae Esguerra.
I am Angelo Kim Bernardino. And I am Asther Garde. And today we will be unpacking ourselves and talk about sexual development. To open the topic, let me ask you a question. When is the right time for you to start learning sexual development, wellness, and identity? Should it be now or should it be later in adulthood? These questions will be answered after this topic. In learning about healthy sexual development, we must first put it in mind that fostering healthy sexual development is not a linear process. It involves multiple curves of social and physiological conditions. Under social conditions, the development of an individual is heavily influenced by the kind of environment and culture they are surrounded with. The way a person views their sexual representation varies with the society they are in. For instance, if your family is too conservative to talk about sexual health, there's a high chance that you would feel ashamed to open up topics and seek answers about your sexuality and body. But if it is the opposite, one would be equipped and have knowledge of their body's demand, as they have already gathered enough information about it from their family. On the other hand, the physiological sciences also dominate the course of developing a healthy sexual self. The biological and psychological aspects of it trigger how we manage and identify the needs of our bodies. Through puberty, the body starts to change and we begin to be aware of our sexual identity. Many chemicals or hormones affect these changes, in which results to us developing our very own concept of sexual wellness. Now, if we combine all of this together and capture its essence, the best time to start learning healthy sexual development begins today. Especially in this generation where sexual intercourse is very much common, yet less people talk about its healthy practices. We cannot stop nor prevent individuals from subjecting themselves in intercourse, as it is in the nature of humans. Thus far, integrating an inclusive and liberated education about sexual health is the most ideal address as of the status quo. As stated by the Ounce of Prevention Fund of Florida, healthy sexual development is the most important part of human development. It nurtures understanding, knowing what to prefer, boundaries, respect, and avoiding vulnerabilities caused by sexual negligence. From that, let us talk about how we can form a healthy sexual self, and as every concept, we must first start on the very beginning or the base of the sexual self. In that, which is the physical changes that occur in the body that makes us open to sexual concepts, to be discussed by Mr. Villaflor.
Okay, so now let us discuss what happens in the body when it starts to develop. But before I start, I want to ask you a question. Is puberty a comfortable cycle to you? If your answer is no, that is because when a person's body starts to develop, our brain also changes. Because of this, we start to be more aware about our body. And sometimes, being aware can make a person anxious or even confused most of the times. These changes also affect our decision making. Now, up to the age of 25. Now, let's understand what happens when we undergo puberty. So, puberty in definition is the physical changes that occurs when a kid is turning into an adult. Puberty starts when a part of the brain called the hypothalamus produces a hormone called gonadotropin releasing hormone, or GnRH. This hormone then stimulates another part of the brain called the pituitary gland to release two hormones called the follicle stimulating hormone, or FSH, and luteinizing hormone, or LH. These hormones then instruct the sex organs, also called gonads, to produce hormones that causes the physical and emotional changes of puberty. The hormones that are produced by the female sex organ, or the ovary, are called the estrogen. So, the estrogen is responsible for the growth of the female body in terms of breast development, widening of the hips, increase in height, and body fat. It also involves menstrual cycle that are caused by the balance in estrogen and another hormone from the ovary called the progesterone. On the other hand, the hormone that is produced by the male sex organ or the testicles is called the testosterone. The testosterone is responsible for a man's growth of penis, increase in height, widening of shoulders, deepening of the voice, and down to the growth of the facial hair. So the sex hormones produced by each gonad isn't limited to just ovaries producing estrogen and progesterone, or the testicle producing testosterone. Both sex organs produce their counterpart hormones in little amounts. Now that you have knowledge about puberty, let us continue by talking about sexual behaviors of a person when they undergo sexual development to be tackled by Miss Bernardino.
When teenagers hit the stage of puberty, the physical aspects are not the only thing that changes. For girls, their chests grow bigger, their hips go wider, and their menstruation cycle starts. As these changes occur, they will start to experience some changes regarding their sexual behaviors. Boys, on the other hand, grow taller and develop deeper voices and are more open to talk about this topic. As this topic suggests, it is not bad to experience this kind of urges and behaviors, where we become more curious about everything, especially about sex. As we all know, discussions about sex are considered to be immoral and taboo in our society. So the knowledge of every adolescent about this is limited but not none. As our society become more open, sex talk was more viewed as an educational topic rather than immoral. So let's continue this discussion in an educational way. There are a variety of common and uncommon sexual behaviors that people experience in and of themselves that have no negative health effects, and that many consider as elements of healthy sexual development, thus preparing youth for positive sexual lives. And to start this, the most common sexual behavior that adolescents do when they hit puberty is masturbating. Masturbation is the act of touching or rubbing one's own genitals. Overall, more adolescents masturbate than engage in sexual intercourse, as it is more easy and less risky. Although it tends to be done alone in privacy, surprisingly enough, males sometimes masturbate in groups. With that being said, were you surprised or not? Anyway, to follow this information, another thing to be considered or surprised by is, did you know that many adolescents engage in touching the genitals of the same sex as part of their sexual development? Yes, you heard it right. Same-sex touching. Early in adolescent development, sexual exploratory behavior often occurs with members of the same sex. But don't be alarmed, as this behavior does not predict being gay or lesbian in the future. But it may contribute to someone's preference or attraction to the other in the future. Lastly, sexual behavior that an adolescent also shows or does is genital touching, which is just like a masturbation but much more sensual and touchy than masturbation. As adolescents get older, they are more likely to engage in genital touching or the touching of the genitals of their sexual partners for sexual pleasure and to meet the other person's needs. Adolescents will experience this kind of sexual behavior, often doing it for different reasons, such as they want to release sexual tension, or they want to please the other person, or they're just really curious and want to know more about sexual intercourse. All of these behaviors are considered normal when we undergo puberty, as it prepares us or give us ideas about sexual intercourse. Sexual intercourse is a common behavior among adolescents, but whether it represents healthy sexual development or not depends on several factors. One factor is non-consensual sex of any kind, which is considered bad sex, where a person experiences forced sex, rape, sexual assault, or molestation can never be considered healthy. So when you encounter one, seek immediate help from authority. On the other hand, engaging in consensual sex, where the two people have each other consent regarding the intercourse, considered to be healthy sex. But still be mindful about the use of contraception, as it decreases the risk of pregnancy, and the use of condoms or dental dams, which is used in oral, vaginal, and anal sex, that decrease the risk of disease including HIV and AIDS. In addition, anal intercourse, whether heterosexual or homosexual, carries an especially high risk of disease transmission, so be careful when doing this kind of intercourse. The other factors affecting the health consequences of sexual activity may include an individual's ability or inability to access healthcare services, cultural and family context, motivations and self-awareness, risk behaviors, mental health, relationships, personal values, maturity, and capacity for coping with the possible consequences of sex. Now that we are aware of these sexual behaviors, we will now talk about the biology of love to be led by Mr. Villaflor.
So now let's talk about the biology of love. When we talk about love, oftentimes the first thought that comes to our mind is emotions. Because whenever we feel love, our heart starts to pound like crazy, and our voices soften whenever we speak to them, or how it turns high pitch when we feel the aftershock of the kilig. And now every after interactions affect our moods throughout the day. We think that all of this is controlled by emotions, but actually, emotions are the result of what happens when you feel love. According to a research conducted by Dr. Helen Fisher at Rogers, romantic love can be broken down into 3 categories. These are lust, attraction, and attachment. Each category is influenced by hormones. Lust is controlled by estrogen and testosterone, while attraction is created by dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. And lastly, attachment is led by the oxytocins and vasopressin. To further elaborate, let us pay attention to Ms. Esguerra has to say.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today, chemistry will take center stage as we explore the intriguing realm of human emotions and wants. Come along as we investigate the complex interaction between hormones, neural circuits, and emotions that underlie our feelings of lust, love, and attraction. A. Hormones. Number 1. Norepinephrine. Imagine that heart-racing feeling when you're near someone you're drawn to. This sensation is mostly brought on by norepinephrine, a hormone that is implicated on our fight-to-flight response. It keeps us alert and is released in high amounts during attraction, making our hearts beat faster and our senses heightened. Number 2. Dopamine. Dopamine. You've probably heard of dopamine, the feel-good chemical messenger in the brain. It is created in the hypothalamus and is an essential part of brain's reward system. Dopamine is released when we engage in intimate activities like spending time with loved ones and feeling ecstatic. It is like a natural high that can even lead to decreased appetite and sleeplessness. Number 3 is vasopressin. Vasopressin, often referred to the monogamy molecule, plays a critical role in pair bonding. It is associated with commitment and deepening connections with a partner. Released during physical intimacy, it strengthens the emotional bond between individuals. The aftermath. Number 1 is prefrontal cortex shutdown. Picture the initial stages of attraction and infatuation. Interestingly, these intense feelings are accompanied by a notable change in brain activity. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for rational thinking, temporarily takes a backseat. This explains why we might sometimes make impulsive decisions in matters of heart. Number 2 is the brain in love. Brain scans of people in love reveal intriguing patterns when exposed to photos of objects of extreme attraction. The reward areas in the brain, notably the center of caudate nucleus, light up. This gives an adage love is a drug biological foundation, since it demonstrates how our brain reacts to love and addictive drugs. Number 3 is the serotonin's role. Serotonin, a hormone involved in mood and appetite regulation, also has a say in love's journey. As the attraction develops, serotonin's levels drop. This mirrors the decreased serotonin levels observed in individuals with obsessive-compulsive disorder, giving us insights into the intensity of infatuation during the early stages of love. As we wrap up our discussion in the world of lust, love, and attraction has come to an end, it is clear that these sensations go much beyond simple feelings of attraction. They are biologically based on and fueled by a symphony of hormones and brain activity. Understanding this chemistry helps shed light on why we feel what we do, enhancing our appreciation for the complexity of human connection. Our investigation of the molecular dance that drives our most intense emotion comes to close at this point. With this knowledge, let us now talk about who are the kind of people we can experience our lust, attraction, and attachment by knowing our sexual identity and orientation. Sexual orientation and gender identity. In our voyage of discovery and compassion, we will explore the complicated structure of human diversity and the delicate process of identity development. A is celebrating diversity, embracing our difference. Diversity is the beautiful symphony of our difference. We have a vast range of characteristics that combine to make us who we are. These are the factors to take into account in addition to race, including religion, culture, physical and mental talents, familiar origins, economic circumstances, and yes, every aspect of sexual and gender diversity. Race is merely one of many factors. B is the identity development, navigating the path to self-discovery. And number 1 is the gender identity. Our journey starts with understanding gender identity. It includes more than just our gender. It is also concerns how each of us mentally perceives ourselves. One fundamental aspect of who we are is our gender identification. It frequently develops early in life and is frequently unrelated to our upbringing. When our gender identity doesn't align with our physical attributes, challenges arise that we must collectively acknowledge and respect. Number 2 is sexual orientation. Now, let us delve into sexual orientation. This is far from just a preference. It is deeply rooted emotional and sexual attraction we feel toward others. This attraction might be toward one sex more than the other, both sexes or not. Keep in mind that it involves more than sexual action. It involves the inner compass of the heart. Next is the understanding the terms. Sex is the categories of female and male assigned at birth based on physical characteristics. Remember, some individuals might be intersex with biology outside traditional definitions. Sexual orientation. It is the emotional and sexual attraction a person feels, which can evolve and might not align with behavior. Gender or gender identity is regardless of one's biological sex, one's internal sense of self might be classified as either female, male, both, or neither. Gender expression is the way we present our gender to others through our behaviors, names, pronouns, and outward appearance. C is embracing our SOGI. More than acronyms, they are people. SOGI is short for sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression is more than a string of letters. It represents the complexity of human identities. Terms like LGBTQ2S+, capture the spectrum of sexual and gender identities that go beyond cisgender and heterosexual norms. Lesbian, gay, transgender, two-spirit, queer, intersex, and sexual orientations are all represented. Remember that abbreviation stands for sexual and gender minorities. Challenging the norms or paving the way of inclusivity. Historically, heterosexuality and cisgender identities were deemed normal. This led to a language that assumed everyone fits these molds. Heteronormative language lets break this barrier. It is crucial to making assumptions about someone's sexual orientation or gender identity based in appearance. Empowering support. Creating safe spaces for all. Sexuality blooms early in life. Yet many sexual and gender minority children and teens faces hurdles due to fears of judgment, bullying, or discrimination. A nurturing environment includes supportive families, schools, and communities plays a pivotal role in enabling LGBTQ2S+ individuals to flourish academically and personally. As we conclude our exploration, let us embrace diversity as the masterpiece that it is. The uniqueness of each person's path of self-discovery is evidence of the wonder of human complexity. We may create more kind, accepting, and peaceful society by comprehending and valuing sexual and gender diversity. I appreciate you coming along with me on this journey of compassion and understanding. Let us use what we've gained today in the future by fostering inclusivity and establishing settings where all identities are honored.